all these people that are trying to be first movers and all these people that are trying to, sell before it's technically legal, they're not going to be the ones that ultimately win.
All right, guys, welcome back to another Wolf Wednesday. I have my friend Joshua Schall on tonight. Josh, say what's up, my man.
What's up, guys?
Well, guys, I am really excited about having Joshua on. I wanted to have him back on in March after I got my first chance to really sit down and meet with him. I had to go all the way to Columbus, Ohio to meet with him when he's right here in Austin, Texas. But super excited to have him on here tonight and to bring some phenomenal insight into the industry and a lot of hot topics that a lot of people have questions on. So if you are a retailer, if you're an entrepreneur in dietary supplements, beverage, CPG, whatever it may be, comment, tag your friends in tonight. Let's have a lot of fun. So as always, when I have a guest host, I want to give him a chance to introduce himself and tell me about his background. So Josh, tell us how we came up in the industry, how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so when I was in undergrad, I got on the bodybuilding.com forums. I was looking for information. That's kind of where this kind of thing all just started for me. I got involved with a few buddies in college that were bodybuilders, and I was not a bodybuilder, so I needed to basically get as much knowledge as I could, try to learn about supplements and training and diets, whatever I could get the edge that I could to try to catch up to these guys. And what happened was I kind of stumbled on these bodybuilding.com forums. They just so happened, it was kind of the heyday of the forums. This is 2006, 2007. So this is a different world of the internet. Facebook business pages and things like that weren't really around. So I kind of got into the forums and got into kind of the business kind of section. I learned that a lot of the CEOs were kind of interacting with forum members. So being a business person, I kind of realized this was a good networking opportunity. So I just kind of made my name known, just kind of talked to people, tried to give value that I could. Ended up getting a position, kind of like a remote position for a company called Beast Sports Nutrition, still in existence, still doing really well. You guys might have heard some different things they do. They just kind of launched some stuff with Gorilla Chemist and stuff like that. So, yeah. But that basically, through about 3 years through grad school, I got to do a bunch of like territory trips. I got to go to the Olympias, the Europa shows, the Arnold's, some international shows. I got to do a bunch of that kind of stuff, and that kind of got me into the industry initially. And after I got my MBA, I left the industry. I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth over some things around, like people said I had to be a salesperson. I had an idea of what I wanted to be. I kind of got shot down. And as a 24-year-old kid, I didn't have the confidence enough to kind of just go off and do my own thing. So I left the industry, went in some different spots. But 2 years after, I got a call from a prior contact, one of the owners of bodybuilding.com, that left there to jump on with Muscle Farm. So during the heyday of Muscle Farm, I was there handling business strategy for them, handled a bunch of other business units as well during those 18 months. But that was kind of the reason why they hired me, was to handle business strategy. So that was kind of my big introduction to the industry. We're growing 400% year over year. We went from $15 million to $85 million in 2 years. So it was just kind of crazy, the amount of growth that we had. People were asking me a lot of questions about, how do you do this? How did that work? Just the common things people are trying to learn. And a lot of it was conflict of interest. But what I kind of was able to do was realize a lot of the people that I went to grad school with, they went off and did consulting, or they went off and worked at big accounting firms. So I always had this professional services kind of idea around what I wanted to do. So I saw a hole in the market. I realized there was not really a lot of consultants, like strategy consultants or management consultants, in the supplement industry, just because of the way that it's kind of broken out. It's very fragmented. The businesses are not, you don't have a bunch of billion-dollar businesses. You have a bunch of 10, 20, $30 million businesses. So big consulting firms can't really charge their $1,000 an hour for a partner to come in and do work for them. So I kind of saw it as a whole, a niche that I was personally passionate about, but it also was able to kind of get in there and not have a lot of competition with these big consulting firms. So that was about 7 years actually, starting this kind of, I think, June. So I've been doing the consulting for a while. So I've been focused on the brand side, but also focused with stores, focused on manufacturers, raw materials, everything in between. I've kind of been all encompassing on the stakeholders in terms of my clients, both from like pre-revenue kind of startups to the largest kind of companies in our industry. So I've been able to kind of cross all of the things off the checklist. So I've seen some things through the last 7 years.
Heck yeah. I mean, and so you guys know, so I first came across Josh on, I think it was LinkedIn. Someone has shared one of your videos. I'm like, man, who is this guy talking? And it's kind of stirring the pot. And I saw some guys that I knew that are in the retail industry were commenting on as well. So getting to watch you more. And I think it was the Protein Creations launch that we made that kind of said, that's when I think we first made our first introduction. You had seen some of the stuff that we were doing. I think that caught your eye. And didn't even know you're in Austin, Texas. And then we had a chance to start chatting. And then, as I mentioned earlier, met you there at the Olympia with, not at the Arnold with Charlie, and got a chance to explore more. Now, since been by the office a couple different times and doing some other stuff. So, with you being truly an expert in this business consulting, when we'll talk about here a couple of these trends in a minute you're seeing, let's talk about a little bit before we get in those, your blogging, because that's where you're really, I feel like, making a vlogging or blogging. When you say, I tend to like your blogging a lot more. I love the videos, but the blog, something about it, I can just read it and follow it. The one you did a while back, which one was it? It was just like the play-by-play thing we'll talk about here in a minute on the supplement stores. If you're not doing these things, you're doing it all wrong, or you need to do them to be successful, but you get a lot of great content. So blogging, what gives you, how do you roll that process in? What is your motivation behind these posts? Are you just seeing trends and say, hey, I'm going to talk about this today? Or is this kind of evolution or a planned out weekly, monthly? How do all these blogs roll out, on a weekly basis? Because you're popping out sometimes 5 a week.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think a lot of people obviously get to know me through the content, and that, I think people maybe get the wrong idea that I'm a content creator, which I'm not. It just so happens that I'm very passionate about what I do. I get to kind of do some very interesting things daily, and I don't get to necessarily talk about exactly what I'm doing just because of just non-disclosure type of things, just confidentiality around who I work with and what I do. But I'm always kind of dealing with having understanding of like market, understanding of the landscape, and trying to pull insights and information that's available to clients. And what ends up happening is I was holding a lot of things in. I just was personally kind of interested in a lot of different areas that maybe I didn't have a client at the time or whatever. So I started to just kind of take away all the curtains behind like the boardrooms, the strategy sessions, and just kind of started putting content out on the industry that was business oriented. So, there's a lot of review sites. There's a lot of people that do the consumer side of the industry, helping people understand flavors and stuff like that. I'm just not really good at that kind of thing. So I married kind of the business side. So when I started doing this, the content maybe 4 years ago, it kind of came out of me, kind of an evolution of how I was doing sales, like business development in my consulting. I had a pretty good 2 years where I was able to really work a lot of my networking and work a lot of the prior contacts that I had. And that kind of, led me into a good position. But what I kind of found was I was spending a lot of time trying to create like kind of contracts with people or create projects with people that they didn't necessarily understand about their own business. I was kind of coming to them and saying, hey, do you see this in your business? I kind of can see this from the outside. And it didn't necessarily work all as well as I thought it was going to work. So what I ended up doing was I took that energy and kind of put it towards content and just said, hey, I'm just going to put a bunch of stuff out there, and people are going to self-select in or out. They're going to really vibe off of what I'm putting out. They're going to really like what I'm doing, or they're going to say, hey, this guy's batshit crazy, which I don't get all that often, but I'm sure some people look at what I do and say, hey, he's off, because I do have really strong opinions on our industry, very strong opinions on business in general. These aren't just kind of out there crazily. These are market vetted things that have been successful in different scenarios. So I'm definitely not coming up with this content that's just kind of willy-nilly. But how I kind of approach it is, I'm one of those idea guys. I think I'm entrepreneurial by heart. So I have a lot of ideas. So I have a list of probably like 50 to 75 different like interesting articles or content that I think would be useful to people. And then it's just a matter of like when I can get to it, or when something sparks in the industry, like, say something like VPX Bang goes crazy with sales. And I always wanted to do something around the performance energy drink market analysis or something like that. That kind of sparks my interest to move it up to the top, and then I just kind of go from there. So it's not really, I don't have like a very stern schedule. I do make sure that I put out content at least 3 times a week, be it video or be it written. But like a schedule, I don't have it like planned out months in advance or anything like that. I think our industry works and moves so quickly that it's very hard to plan things out kind of crazily. Even when I kind of put the videos and I try to shoot maybe 3 or 4 at a time, I'll find by the time I get to that 3rd or 4th video coming out, something's changed that I wish I would have been able to say something different because something happened. So I try not to get too ahead of it, just because I want to make sure people get the most dialed in, kind of in the moment type of content that I can give them.
Yeah, you've almost become an insider, or you are an insider. I feel like people at this point are probably coming to you with information that they also want you to help get out there. It's been really interesting to see how that evolution has gone. I love it. I mean, you guys, if you're not following Josh, you need to go and follow him out, and then we'll go and give you his social media outlets, his LinkedIn, and so forth. But he had a article this week. It was Death of the Outside Salesperson, and it definitely drove a lot of responses, industry driven specifically, but it was excellent. So with that being said, talking about content, how things triggered you to talk about them, I picked out my 3 favorite over the past few months and weeks, and I want to discuss those tonight. So as you know, a lot of people know me for being expert in supplement retail, knowing the partnership between both the wholesaler and the retailer and how you help support them and help them grow. And very similar to you, I'm somewhat in the consultant type, like where I will go into physical retail and say, you're doing this XYZ wrong. Let's implement this strategy to do this better. We bring people into our offices, corporate offices all the time, take a look at their business and dial them in and say, hey, let's go and take these core competencies home and to drive new revenue. So very similar fashion. So the first topic I want to talk about is, so you want to open a supplement store, and let's kind of dig into that article you wrote a while back and like those core competencies that you need to be successful inside of brick and mortar retail today. You mentioned specifically in that article, the days of putting up wire shelves on both sides of 2 walls and having a cash wrapper over. Explain more the reason why you wrote that, and some of the main topics that you would like to drive home from the article.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of put out a few different pieces around supplement retail, especially more the brick and mortar small. If you guys do follow me, or you guys look at YouTube channel and things like that, you'll see I do a lot of analysis on big specialty retail as well, the GNCs, the vitamin shops, bodybuilding.coms, when there's other available information on Amazon or Walmart or categorical type of things. So I spent a lot of time there. But what I found was a lot of the people that were interested, they weren't able to quickly pull the information and say, how does this apply to me as a small business owner in Omaha, Nebraska, or whatever it was. And so I started to kind of look at take a look at the small mom and pop or independent type of brick and mortar supplement retailers. And what really inspired me was that I spent the first couple years in the industry doing demos, doing territory visits and things like that. Like I said, in college, that was how I started. So going into a store at that time, that's in 2006, 2007, and then going into a store now in 2019, nothing's changed. Nothing has evolved. The world around us has changed dramatically, but you walk into a supplement store and you still get the same experience, which some people might like that, but for the vast majority of consumers, they're seeking more out of that experience now. So I got inspired just to kind of talk about, one, just making sure people were able to kind of quantify like what was happening out in the market. I don't think that you necessarily, sign your death letter if you decide to start a supplement store today. I think it's very tough, but I think that if somebody's really passionate, really wants to do it, and is willing to put in the work and work smart, they definitely can do it. And I kind of started off kind of telling people to make sure you get your ducks in a row in terms of like do some financial modeling, which I think a lot of people maybe just skip that step because they say, hey, I'm passionate. I'll get through it. I'll figure a way out. Which is tough today because there's so many challenges, so many headwinds against you that like you can't overcome very easily. So you have to make sure you at least have a fighting chance when you get in there. So get some like basic modeling. And I'm not talking like put a bunch of crazy spreadsheets together, but you should understand just like your basic costs. What is your, your best chance, your middle chance, and your kind of worst case scenario in terms of what you think your revenue could be. Have some general kind of marketing plan, just kind of overall make sure you put some effort into that point before you sign the paperwork. I think that alone separates a lot of what happens in the kind of the small brick and mortar kind of space in the supplement industry, because I think that there's a lot of people that
I want to catch you real quick because Charlie is famous for saying something. It's always location, location, location. That's step one. You have a shitty location. How do you expect people to walk in? So I want to, as you're going into those basics, I mean, basic real estate, is your location worth any value? I mean, I don't want to stop you there, but I had to put that in there because that's one thing he's known for extremely well, is having a phenomenal real estate mind. That's one of the huge credits to us having such success with our own stores and still being relevant, is because our locations are so good. But that goes into what you were saying. If you can't have a simple financial analysis of where you're putting your store, and if people are actually going to see it from the road, how do you expect people to funnel in there if you don't have any good digital strategy as well? So keep on. I'll interject here and there.
No, and I think that's a big part of it. And that was one of the areas that I definitely made sure I covered. I said, the concept of understanding, what's the median income? How many people are in that suburb or town? How many people cross that intersection each day? What's foot traffic? What's that foot traffic worth? All these different things that you need to put into your model of understanding, am I going to make revenue at this level, or this level? You can't just kind of throw a dart and say, hey, this is what I think I'm going to do because that's what I feel is going to work well. So it's kind of that prep, just making sure that you have a good understanding of where you're going to be at. But after you get to that point, then that's kind of just the starting point, obviously, and you're kind of then you have these four walls. Sometimes you have a window if you're lucky as well, but how do you set that up? How do you make sure that it stands out? It's exceptional for people that comes in the door, because retail, though it's still the vast majority of just overall retail sales, people still go into stores and buy things. Supplements are definitely a much stronger digital penetration. Like it's kind of already going in that direction. It's an easy thing to sell online. So a lot of people are used to buying it online. There's a lot of availability online. So it's not like you're doing drinks or you're doing, say, gasoline or something where it's not sold online. So you don't have as much protection as you used to. So because of that, you need to make sure that everything you do provides a very exceptional experience, because anybody can go into and shop anywhere they want. They don't need to shop with you. They need a reason to shop with you, and you need to give that to them. So there's things like, the way that the store looks, it's laid out, making sure that it's unique over just, like you said, wire shelves or just kind of that warehouse look where you've slapped some product on the shelf and, you sit behind a glass counter and you put your feet up and you wait for customers to come in. That's not going to work anymore. So it's a matter of, setting that store up correctly, but also when customers come in the door, everything stops. They're the most important person at that point. You know what I mean? Like, you should be glad that somebody's coming in and wants to support your business in any way. So
I'll say this all the time, man. When I'm on the road and I go into a store and I'm watching sales and service, I'm like, if someone walks in your door, they've made the subliminal, explanation in their mind that they need help. So help them, offer them service, because like you just said, it's too easy to go get stuff online. If someone's educated, or if they're all about price and they want the cheapest thing, they can just go straight to anywhere they want online. But if they actually need help, that's why they're walking into you. So you're dead on, man. It's all service.
Yeah, I mean, there's a self-directed consumer, which is mostly going to buy online, and then there's the person that still has a question or something that they need to be answered with supplements. I think people forget that supplements are a goal-driven, like an intent-driven type of purchase. Like, you don't buy a fat burner just because you just all of a sudden just came up with the idea that you want one. Like, it's not like a salty snack or a tasty beverage. There's an intent behind that. There's a goal that you're going to reach with that product. So there's usually some kind of massaging that needs to happen if you don't have all the answers and you're not confident to get those answers to be able to create the plan or understand the differences between this product and that product. So when somebody walks in the door, odds are they want to be serviced in some way, and it's your job to figure that out, to figure out what can you do to get them to their goal, because that's the only way you're going to consistently create some strong lifetime customer value, or you want people to come back to you because you offered them something that they can't get on Amazon or bodybuilding.com or anything like that. So I definitely talked about that. I mean, I think that kind of transitioned into a little bit about like marketing. That's kind of one of my hot buttons right now with like local marketing. I feel like people have forgotten that they're a local business. All of a sudden they think, they're going to post on Instagram to their 400 followers that, probably 20% of them are local. The other ones are just bots or fake followers anyway. So and then they kick their feet up and go, all right, did my marketing, I'm good. People are going to start coming in the door. And it doesn't work like that. I mean, you're a local business. I mean, I grew up my dad was an entrepreneur in a local business as well. He was a mechanic. I remember going there as a kid and him going out and like marketing, like, kind of making sure people knew his name. People knew he had, 2 kids and he had, this, and he was proud of telling stories and things because he wanted people to know who he was, because if they needed something with their car, or in this case, a supplement, if they know Josh, they're going to go and shop with Josh because they want to support me. They want to support, whatever it is that, I'm into. They're willing to spend $1 or $2 or $3 more with me because they know it's going to a good place. They're supporting somebody local or whatever. But if you don't go out and do that, and people don't know your name, again, why does somebody shop with you? What's the purpose of somebody shopping with you? Because
a lot of these guys are still, like you said, from 2006 to 2019, they're still baking on these gray area or whatever we want to call them products. We had the designer steroids. From there went to DMAA. From there it went to SARMs, and they're still selling these, one-time purchase, what I would call products, and there's no residual. I mean, when those parts are gone, those customers are never returning. So they're not banking on the return customer. And a lot of these guys, that's purely their strategy is, what hardcore products can I bring into my retail front to drive in business? And that's not incremental revenue at all. It makes zero sense. And to your point on that, one of the biggest things I take home when we bring people here in the office is like, I ask guys all the time is, you're the face of your company, especially a lot of these guys are owner operators. You're the face of your company. Are you going into the Chamber of Commerce? Are you going to doing business to business marketing? Are you going and say, developing that relationship with them one-on-one, and then going back and say, well, this is the experience you're now going to get when you come to my store because you like me, you like who I am. You see the values and integrities that I have. And some of these guys, like you said, they just think they can go post something on there. Just like even on my own social media, I do content on my own stories. But again, a lot of those people are just purely just consumers that like our brands. Those aren't my direct buyers. I have to go seek those people out. And dude, you're dead on. The marketing for me is tough. I made a post last night, and it's so funny. Guys got to defend it. I'm like, if you're a store owner and you don't have the basic dress code policy in place for your employees to wear branded clothing for your store, you're failing. I mean, if you don't have a dress code policy, how do you have a sales and service policy? How do you have a customer support policy? How do you have a merchandising policy? How do you have any of these things? Because you can't even control what your people wear. And guys got offended. And I'm like, listen, dude, I'm not trying to personally poke you. I'm just pointing out the obvious.
Yeah, it's doing if you can't do the simple things right, how are you going to be able to do the complex things? You know what I mean? You got to have the not to say that, there's cases and people, I'm sure people are throwing, well, I'm successful and I don't need, I get that. But a lot of times, I mean, your post, a lot of the stuff that I put out, you're playing the probabilities, and the probability is like, if somebody walks in the door and they get a consistent experience by knowing who the store employee even is because of having something that makes them known, it's just an easy little plus that goes into all this. It's not, you have to handle your business on the easy side as well before you start getting in all these like complex different scenarios that, that I tend to talk about on my channel. It's like, you gotta do the basics as well before you start getting into the fancy stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think that supplement retailers at this point, they're kind of, I mean, the ones that, there's very good ones. I don't want anybody to think that I'm talking bad about everybody. There's definitely some ones that are great, the ones that I've seen. But vast majority of them have taken this kind of lazy kind of order taking type of mentality where they're just kind of waiting around and hoping that something happens. And that's hard to swallow a lot of times when you have to tell somebody that, or when that becomes apparent. And
when I was in Southern California, I talked about it briefly, man. It was the worst. I mean, and like you say, I do this. I love retail, and that's where I got my roots. But it was the worst experience I've ever seen in my life. From San Diego to LA, the worst retail I've ever seen. Guys just standing by the counter, didn't care one bit of who walked in through the door, just an order taking. And that is the fastest way to the bottom. There's no way that you can survive, period.
Yeah. Remember a quote actually by somebody, the Vitamin Shop CEO actually said this recently on a call, was basically, she said, the only person that can fire me is the customer, quite honestly. And I have to treat the customer as if they are my boss, and I have to serve them to what they need to every day. And I think that if you remember that, because people are voting honestly, or putting you out of business, closing your doors by not spending money with you, if you're not doing things you need to do to get their business. You have to be exceptional in kind of everything you do. There's the article or the video that you're referencing, there's other things that we're talking about in terms of like, tech. Don't be scared of technology.
Yeah, I want you to talk about that real quick before we move on to the next topic. How do you talk about the convenience factor? Because that's where I find a lot of guys are saying, oh, e-commerce is killing me because it's more convenient. But how would a brick and mortar retailer add convenience to their store that they're not doing now?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are trying to guard their business to try to make sure it stays how they would like it. So they feel like it needs to be done in physical retail. But consumers today, customers are going to purchase how they want to purchase, when they want to purchase. So if you're not providing them the ability to shop the way they want to shop, they're going to go somewhere else. So with this idea of, convenience, like having a website, not necessarily even like really focusing and spending a ton of money on it, but making sure you at least provide that option for a consumer. The idea of maybe implementing some idea of like maybe doing some click and collect, which is probably at the fullest level is a little bit too kind of complex for like small retailers. But I mean, you think about just in the sense of like a customer calls you up and says, hey, I'm going to pick up this supplement later today. Can you pull it in the back for me, and I'll pay for it, or I'll pay for it now, or whatever. That's basically like a archaic type of click and collect in a way, but you're providing that service for people to get some convenience out of it. Because if somebody wants to shop how they want to shop, you want to be able to provide that to them, and you don't really want to have them only shop the way that you want them to shop. So if it's, having an Amazon shop, if some brands allow you to sell some of their brands online on Amazon, maybe that's that way. Maybe it's, opening your own website, like I said, offering some type of fulfillment type of options that work well. Whatever it is that provides convenience to the customer for the buying experience, however they want to shop, you need to be able to provide that to them and not overcomplicate it and add a bunch of layers of cost and try to make sure you do things that the big guys are doing. But you need to at least stay up to date with as much as you can, because consumers are used to, think about this example, Amazon, when they started doing like 2-day shipping, that was crazy. But nowadays, what happens when you go on a retailer and they don't have like free 2-day shipping or something like that?
It's a new standard.
it's a negative then. You're like, I don't want to shop with these guys. I don't want to pay $6 for shipping or something. So it's now that these different retailers, bigger retailers than the small shops are doing different things, you have to at least keep up with some of the things they're doing to make sure that you provide that level of convenience and that level of buying experience that they want.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've seen a few guys implement like the meal services into their stores where people have to come pick up their meals. So then they're coming in to pick up their supplements. So they're able to do a couple different things. And that goes that click and collect. So great topic. So the next thing I want to get into was one that you've talked about this in multiple articles and not directly in one, but this is something I think specifically more on the brand owner side. I'm asking more on my curiosity and for others that I know have, had interest or flirted with it or want more clarity is this is probably one of the toughest things any brand owner has to make to balance these things these days. The balance between brick and mortar relationships and priority, their own e-commerce sites, and then Amazon selling. And so if you could just walk us through what would be what we call a perfect marriage of those three sales channels for a brand owner to maintain integrities across the board and make sure everyone is as happy as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to, at the core, I think it comes down to making sure that you can stay true to whatever that strategy is, and you can communicate that to whoever those partners are. And it's usually surrounding price. I think that price is kind of where most people are going to focus at. If you can hold consistent price integrity to the level of an Apple or something crazy like that, you don't have to worry about some type of conflicts happening, because you will have the same price if somebody buys it on Amazon, same price as they buy it on your website, same price as they buy it at Joe's Supplements. It's kind of the same process. So a consumer doesn't necessarily price shop. They're going to be purchasing where they want to purchase. And that's the goal of any brand. You have to offer your products where the consumers are buying. I think that the idea that brick and mortar exclusive and having that control is kind of just a short-term type of thing that people or brands that they get in to try to get in the door.
Well, I think it's almost the adoption. That thought process is almost kind of just like it goes back to the same methodology of the 2006 retailer to the 2019 retailer. It's same thing to very similar to the brand owner. I mean, we'll get to that when we talk about the say you don't want to be a Walmart brand, but it's the same type of thinking. Is a lot of the adoptions to the how the industry and the industry scaling. I feel like in the dietary supplement space, it takes them we're like a decade or more behind when it comes to a lot of these philosophies. And it's the truth. I mean, it honestly makes it more hard. I mean, the reality is, like you just said, if the price integrity is maintained through every sales outlet where your products are distributed, the customer is going to shop where we want to shop. If you're doing those things we just talked about of the convenience, the phenomenal service and excellent merchandising and marketing of your store, people are going to come shop with you. But I think you hit it on the nail on the head. It's like people are going to shop where they want to shop. And it's my job as a brand owner, is just as much as anybody to be able to offer that, but still have those integrities in place.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're working with a brand or the brand's working with a retailer, and you have that conversation, you have that relationship going on, and there's a relationship of trust, and it's built on layers of trust and making sure that you've always kind of backed up with what you have always said. You shouldn't have to worry that a brand is selling on Amazon or a brand selling on their own website. That's not your worry, because the customers that are going to them, especially if the price is exactly the same and everything, those customers are going there because you lost them some way. The retailer lost them some way. They didn't provide the right service. They didn't provide whatever it was. Maybe that customer just doesn't want to drive across town. Like, that's not the brand's fault. That's the customer's choice. But the brand, their fiduciary duty in terms of their ownership or what the employees that work there, their job is to make sure that they can maximize their business. So if they all of a sudden don't open their own direct to consumer, they don't open, at least have the products listed on Amazon, they're doing a disservice to the brand in general, and doing a disservice in a way like indirectly to the retailer, because that brand is not really taking care of business. I mean, they're not doing the complete kind of thing here. You're not going to magically, like, if you're a retailer in Omaha, Nebraska, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of people buying on Amazon from LA, California, those weren't your customers. That doesn't it doesn't worry. Like, you're going to have to guard your own area with making sure that you have the best. You shouldn't be thinking negatively about a brand because they're not brick and mortar exclusive. The problem is the brand doesn't uphold their integrity of pricing or their policies or whatever.
Right, their policies with other distributors or retailers who have their products online. I mean, it should be very simple. I mean, that's what the problem is. Going back to weighing your odds of what that revenue picture looks like. I mean, if you've decided to make that move online with your products, you should also be able to make and pivot that move if someone's not abiding by the policies, to cut them off. I mean, because you're going to obviously should be making that somewhere else to make it up. But yeah, that's the biggest problem, is like those policies, people lose control. And it really goes back to where you allow these mega distributors to have your products. And then they just let them go wherever, every eBay seller, every Amazon seller. And that's when a lot of the distribution policies and the price integrities are completely lost.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, I mean, the onus is usually on the brand, because one, I mean, this is kind of going to just like the industry. The industry, brands in our industry, unfortunately, are not very well capitalized. And what I mean by that is they don't have a lot of like external funding. They don't start with a lot of funding. Usually it's just very small businesses that get started up. So they might have these grand plans that they want to kind of get into brick and mortar exclusive, or they have all these strong ideas about what they do. But what ends up happening is, if they weren't able to create as demand, or they weren't able to push the sales through a retailer, inventory ages. That's money. That's the money they need to survive. And all of a sudden, when your back's against the wall, people make some crazy ideas. So that's why you see the 3-in-1s, 2-in-1s. You see these crazy deals on distribution or whatever, because they're trying to service who's going to pay them the money. So it's the intermediary, it's the retailer, whatever it is to get quick cash. They do that. So they all of a sudden they go against what they said. So these are like, as a retailer, these are the things that you need to be vetting when you're dealing with anybody. Like, I know that most of the retailers are like, oh, I want to work with these small little businesses that are going to give me market exclusivity or whatever it is. Like, what happens when all of a sudden they don't sell very well? Or what happens when, like, they don't have
inventory to fulfill your next order when you make it? That's, the out of stocks with a lot of these companies, because they don't have the capital to even make a new run of products. I mean, yeah, you get behind a product brand and then boom, they don't have any inventory for you to sell. Imagine that. And then you have to switch a consumer off to another product again.
Yeah, so you get into these, places where you have to start making decisions on your merchandising. But just to get back to like the having a strong kind of channel strategy, it's going to come down to the brand making sure that they uphold what they need to uphold. And if they're on Amazon, are they gating Amazon? Are they only allowing themselves to sell, or maybe one third party Amazon power seller or whatever, not allowing 35 people on their listing? Because what happens is there's only a certain amount of demand for that product. Now all of a sudden you have hundreds of different units, different sellers that have hundreds of units in an FBA warehouse. Eventually that ages. They're paying inventory storage fees. All of a sudden they're going to start discounting. They're going to drop the price, or somebody's, one of the sellers are going to start dropping the price. So you got to make sure that you're kind of checking the boxes when you're dealing with brands that are coming to you that are sold on different channels. It's not necessarily bad that they are, but you need to be at least understanding of, are they taking care of their own business? Are they a brand that does a ton of sales on their direct-to-consumer site that I'm constantly having to battle with that? Or am I constantly having to battle with Amazon pricing because they have 35 sellers on their listing? These are the things you need to at least look at, because you shouldn't just hate Amazon or hate direct-to-consumer just because, but you need to make sure that you check the right brands that are doing it the right way, or if they're not doing the right way, just walk away from it. Trust me, there's thousands of brands out there. You don't need to work with one brand because they're not doing what they need to do. Like, if it doesn't fit your retailer, don't do business with them. It's that easy. You know what I mean? It's not like I don't want to like throw any brands on the bus or whatever, but it's not like we're dealing with multi-billion-dollar brands where there's so much pull coming into your store that you have to stock them. You know what I mean? Like maybe Optimum Nutrition chocolate protein, you need to, because like so much of the market. Maybe C4, you need to because it's so much of the market. But outside of that, there's not a lot of them that are pulling to the level that a consumer comes in there all the time asking for things. So don't work with them. Don't work. You know what I mean?
No, it's dead on. You're perfect, man, because there is the brands that do it right between those channels, and you can still do great business with them. It's not just if they're on Amazon, they're the devil. So that was the biggest thing that, you know, I wanted to just drive home just to and also explore. So this is going to be probably a little bit, you know, past what we're talking about now. But when you posted this article, it really triggered me to think like, dang, I've definitely said this, and it's very ignorant. I mean, the next topic I want to talk about, guys, is so you say you don't want to be a Walmart brand, and that really had me think. And it's so funny. I saw James Bacuzzi post a minute ago, and he had that meme he posted. So it said, "I'm here for Berserk and Chemex," and had that guy with the crop top on and the belly shirt. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. So James, I like that meme. But it really had me a chance to think back and look at my own business. I'm like, why wouldn't I want my brands in there to touch as many customers and consumers as I'd want it to, because I love my brand so much. I know how powerful they are. I know how good they taste. You know what I mean? Like, and that really had, you know, and that got a ton of comments, specifically on your own personal Facebook. But talk more about what you were meaning behind that and how the FDM space is dramatically changing.
Yeah, I mean, there's been this evolution of, we're talking mostly probably around like sports nutrition, but there's been this evolution of like where consumers purchase sports nutrition products, but also what is considered a sports nutrition product. That has changed in itself. So being that there's a lot of new consumers on the, what they call like the lifestyle stage or the mainstream kind of consumer side of things, their idea of what they think sports nutrition is very different than just the core, hardcore sports nutrition buyer. So they're walking into a Walmart. They're walking into a grocery store like an H-E-B here in Texas. They're buying their products there. Sometimes it's powders and pills and the traditional stuff, but a lot of times it's also protein bars and energy drinks and things like that. So there's a morph of like what's happening with both the channel and the product and the customer. So it's kind of creating this opportunity where the old kind of siloed like ideas of things like, I don't want to be a Walmart brand. That's always a thing that I've heard throughout this whole career. Like, I would never sell out. I would never be a Walmart brand. It's not necessarily as true as it used to be. Now, Walmart, the store, the 5,000 locations in the US, that's one thing. That's very hard to get into. A certain type of business needs to be able to do that. It has nothing to do with the product or the brand. It has a lot to do with, can you all of a sudden have, you know, another 100 pallets of product? Can you service that inventory? Can you extend your cash cycle out 60 or 75 days for Walmart? What happens if it doesn't sell through, or they're going to return it? Can you absorb that? Or they're going to discount it at 50%. You're going to have to eat that 50%. It's like all those different things. So it's, that's one thing. The stores are still a very difficult possibility for brands to get into. There's a special type of brand or business that needs to be effective at Walmart. But Walmart has transitioned their business with Amazon having such an influence now in the world. You know, the Walmart.com, in part also Jet.com, they have a marketplace just like Amazon. They have a very big marketplace. I mean, hundreds of millions of people, unique visitors, go into Walmart every month, Walmart.com. So they are searching for non-branded search terms and different things, just like they're doing on Amazon. But if you're not there because you have a dated view of what Walmart and your Walmart brand is, and you're not on there, you're losing out on a ton of potential, because I'm going to guarantee consumers are searching for your brand or searching for non-branded search terms that you have products that can meet their needs and have great products for them. You're not there, so you're not making that money. I understand there's some dated views in the context of Walmart and, you know, how it's, you know, even their customer base is a certain type of person. The online customer demographics are very different than in the store. They resemble a lot closer to Amazon at this point. So if you're on Amazon, it's kind of like why you're not on Walmart as well. To me, I see them as similar, where a lot of people, for some reason, the Walmart name in general like brings up, like you said, the meme that James posted, like this hillbilly overweight, like small shirt dude, like that's what the people of Walmart, there's like that social media account or whatever that has all the pictures of people, crazy people at Walmart. Like that's what people think of. And I totally get that. That's changing as well a little bit, but it's very hard for you to get into a store location, but there's this huge opportunity. I think Walmart is the third biggest e-commerce site in the United States right now for sales. I think they're somewhere around $30 billion right now. They're right behind eBay. So
wow,
there's a lot of revenue that's going through there. And not to say that I don't know the percentage of where it goes categorically. What I'll say is that Amazon, their biggest consumable CPG category is the health and beauty section, the personal, like the one where the supplements are at, and the biggest subcategory in the consumable area is vitamins, minerals, and supplements. So it's assuming that that's probably the same for Walmart. So you're getting a big chunk of it. I would guarantee probably over $1 billion of sales that are going through there. So it's like you're missing out on that opportunity. Somebody's getting it. It's just not you. It's BPI. It's brands like that
Cellucor, Optimum Nutrition, BSN.
They strip the ego away and they say, hey, I'm not romantic about how I do my business. I'm going to make money because the consumers are searching for things that they need, and I can service that customer on Walmart.com.
Yep. No, it's wow. I mean, it's crazy. It definitely drummed up a ton of different, comments and questions. So I thought it was a great time to talk about that. One thing I want to bring up, and I meant to bring this up on the retail side earlier. So I'm also seeing an interesting pivot in supplement retail. And I'll kind of close out with this in just a minute. And if anybody has any questions, guys, that are watching this, please post some questions in here and I'll be happy to read those off to Joshua at the very end. So if you have any questions, put these in. If you haven't had a chance to share tonight's episode, please do it. It always helps with the content moving forward. But today I actually had forwarded to me that Nutrition Zone, the stores out in the West Coast, they have like 21 franchises, are now going to be called Nutrition Zone CBD, the number one CBD authority, basically flipping the majority of their stores to where they're now a CBD franchise. And that pivot was extremely interesting. I don't think all of them have done that yet. I don't know if you've seen this article, but I can forward it to you. It's actually on their website. That's a letter that they posted. But I wanted to kind of have you kind of compliment on the CBD space and maybe what you've seen there. But what do you think of a move like that? I mean, that's a pretty bold move by a franchise that's taken some time. It's been around for a while. It's really not grown to any exponential heights. But what do you think of something like that?
I mean, it's definitely a risky move. I mean, I've been extremely bullish on CBD because it's a sensory ingredient in the world today. Like there's not a lot of sensory ingredients that are allowable. Like it has, caffeine, an alcohol, in a marijuana at this point. There's not a lot of those sensory things. So something new coming out, you're going to have just a huge amount of people that are going to be interested in it. And it's tough because they're making a very strong line in the sand saying, this is we're pivoting our business. We think this is going to be
the future,
sustainable, that we're going to be all in on CBD. I don't like, my personal feeling on CBD is that all these people that are trying to be first movers and all these people that are trying to sell before it's technically legal, they're not going to be the ones that ultimately win. They're not going to magically become Coca-Cola or Pepsi because they were a first mover into the area. Every major consumer packaged good brand and every major retailer has CBD on their mind. They have either tested it, they have it ready online when it comes legal, or they're already trying to sell it in certain states. So the winners are still going to be the people that are winning now. You know what I mean? It's going to be the Budweiser. It's going to be Marlboro. It's going to be those are the people that are going to win ultimately. It's not going to be, some small fish and whatever. Now there might be some scraps that you can make a really good business at. I don't want people to, I don't want people to say like, oh, well, I'm not going to make any money. You can, but you're not going to magically become a $1 billion brand out of nowhere when all these other people are just waiting in the grass until it's federally legal, because they can't take the risk or liability on it to do it right now. I'm sure they would love to, but they can't. But CBD to me is it's super interesting because let's see, how many years have I been, like 10, 11 years or so, like in this industry? Like I can't remember the last time like something is like totally new that's available. You know what I mean? So it's like the Wild Wild West to me. It's like you get to see something new getting created at the beginning.
Yeah, it's been quite the transformation. You're dead on. Did you post an article today talking about how Monster is talking about, and they're pivoting to doing alcoholic beverages and or CBD? The alcoholic beverages sound amazing. I mean, I'm not much of a Monster fan, but I will drink some Monster if it has alcohol in it. That is for sure. I mean, that's interesting. Talk about that.
Bring back the old Four Loko, right? Like go straight.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. So I was actually talking to an upper level director at Red Bull through LinkedIn yesterday, and he connected with me. And one of the things I've been doing now is just asking directly, like, "Hey, how'd you find me? What exactly do you do?" Just learning more about him, just networking. And I had a chance to ask him, I was like, "Why has Red Bull not? Have you seen a decrease and increase in the market share with Bang and Monster, specifically Bang, becoming so relevant?" And he said, "Yeah, we're probably going to see it more next year with the buying and see where buyers go." But I said, "Why have you guys not came out with a 16-ounce, ultra energy product and or, pivot in some way?" Because what I told him, I still think in the beverage community, there's still some buying, loyalty. But at some point, they've had to lose energy drink buyers to Monster and or Bang now, because they make the 8-ounce and 12 ounces. And there's not that much caffeine because you're seeing that ultra energy drink. And he said, yeah, we are seeing it. But what he said that their executive team was banking on was just their hardcore committed Red Bull buyer that's been there for years. And I just felt like that was like, I don't know, that's putting your marbles in a basket. I think I'd be careful with. It didn't make sense to me.
I mean, Red Bull is kind of up there in the echelon of like true brand, like people buy Red Bull, even though it's probably the most, the highest priced per ounce energy drink. There's rarely ever a lot of promotional type of activity, not to the level of like a Monster or Rockstar that you see at a convenience store. So even with that, and they're a global company. I mean, they're very much a global company. I mean, they're not a US based company in the first place, but a lot of the revenue does come from outside of the US as well. So in the outside of the US, it's a much different world. Like you can't have caffeine at more than 10 in a lot of the regions and countries. You can't have it more than 10 milligrams per ounce. So you can't have a 300 milligram 16-ounce beverage. It's not really allowed. So Red Bull has a longstanding like more strength in the international market. They're just the ultimate brand, the ultimate aspirational brand. They're by far outside of any of the other ones. They have that brand that just pulls very strong. Now, yeah, in terms of like the revenue over the last 52 weeks or so, I think I just saw some data that came out recently where Red Bull is still growing. I think it's 3 or 4%. I mean, this is I think a $7 or $8 billion business. So like that is a pretty good clip. But the same 52 weeks, I think that Bang was like 800% growth, something crazy like that, like just insane. Like I think that's $600 million thing. So there's still 1/10 or so of Red Bull, and I'm sure that Red Bull is feeling some of it. Well, who's really feeling it is Rockstar and Monster, because there's more of a trade-off between those two. I think that though Monster and Rockstar have strong brands, they built strong brands, they're not anywhere near the strong Red Bull. So you're having a lot of people cross over from Monster and Rockstar. And I think also like Jack is very good at challenging those two particular businesses. So people are making the connection between am I drinking Monster, am I drinking Rockstar, am I drinking Bang? And a lot of people at this point are picking Bang, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. The energy drink market is probably one of the most exciting ones to pay attention to right now. I know a lot of people that are probably watching this sell a ton of them in their store, even though they are a supplement store. They're becoming a beverage outlet at this point. But there's a lot of interesting things that are going on, from like innovations, like you said about Monster. Like they are looking outside of their core just energy products. They're looking at alcohol infused things, and not necessarily it might not be called Monster, alcohol.
Right, but different brands.
Some other brand. They have other brands in their portfolio.
But the crazy thing with Red Bull, they have a $7 billion business with essentially 3 different items: the original, sugar-free, and then their colored drinks. I don't know what you call them. And I remember going to their distribution page, and I was blown away that there was no other companies or other brands underneath their distribution. I was like, now that you told me that number, that's just incredible.
Yeah, it's insane. So you have, kind of bring this whole thing forward, is that Monster, and honestly, every beverage player out there is playing around with CBD at this point. They're just waiting for it to be kind of federally legal. And I'm sure I don't want anybody to think that, I know all the answers to the CBD question, but what I'll say is right now, the FDA is not completely giving clarification on how they need to be sold, like the different way that it needs to be presented on the label, the claims. The FTC and the FDA haven't really gotten together and said this is the way it's going to be for commercialization. Yeah, it's legal to grow it, but it's not technically legal to be sold at this point. Not to say that the enforcement is going to be there and anybody needs to worry about people kicking down their door tomorrow, but it's not technically legal yet.
So Governor Abbott here in Texas, I think that news release was earlier today that he signed the bill to make it legal here in Texas.
I think to grow, yeah. So like I think because
each state
to grow it, yeah. So
oh.
I think, because I think for farmers, especially farmers that maybe we're doing soybeans or whatever, and China's not buying our soybeans because of the trade. Like you need a crop. A great crop that's highly in demand is hemp.
Hemp.
Why not sell or why not grow it? So these states, especially Texas, where there's a bunch of farmers, a lot of the other kind of farming belt, they've all kind of gotten in on this, but you're still at this point, like you need to have everything cleared away. So you see the you see the Coca-Colas, you see the Pepsis, you see the
they're going to get into it. If it's legal, they're going after it.
That's when all of a sudden things start to get really interesting with CBD.
Well, my final question before we wrap it up, and tonight's been awesome. As you know, probably a lot of people know, I love a good Modelo, and I never got a chance to read your article about Bud Light going with the transparent nutritional facts and putting their calories on there and all that type of stuff. Have they rolled it out? Why are they rolling out? I feel like that move to me doesn't make sense. I don't feel the consumer that's drinking alcoholic beverage, other than the calories that Michelob and all these other light beer companies have marketed, people care about. Like, help me understand that, and I want to hear your take on it.
Yeah, I think so. Intellectually, I understand it. Viscerally, I don't really. Like, as somebody that's going to go drink a beer, I could care less about how many calories are in it. I've already made a decision that, like,
yeah, I'm going to go into
calories don't count. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Like, so I think in 2016, actually, the major beer companies decided that by 2020, I think it was, that they were actually going to start putting some basic like nutritional facts or label, something that could provide some understanding for consumers, because the FDA does not govern or regulate the alcohol industry. It's a different regulatory body, so you don't have the same rules where you need to have nutritional facts and all that. But what Bud Light decided to do was say, we're gonna be first in on this. We're gonna use this as a marketing ploy, and we're gonna put this big nutritional facts on there. It also helped that Bud Light is one of like the cleanest label products out of all the beer. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like barley, hops, water, so that's like all it's in there. So they're very easy to like put it out there because they don't use any corn syrup. They don't use anything else in there. So it's, though it might seem like it's very daring or whatever, it's not. They knew what they were doing. They also, like you said, Michelob Ultra. they saw that sales like went up like crazy. I forget the number it was. It was almost 100% over like a 2-year period after they started putting like the carb content on there. For some reason, and then they started. You saw the commercials. They had like fitness people in it and stuff.
Lance Armstrong was on them, man.
Yeah, it is funny because I think I looked at it. The Michelob Ultra and then like the Bud Light. I think the difference was like 15 calories. Like something that was like. I mean, even if you drink a 12-pack, it doesn't make a difference. You know what I mean? Like it's not really that big of a deal. It's like, especially if you're an active person, like it's not even that big of a difference. So it's just, there's going to be a lot of that weird stuff that like consumers are going to have to like relook at beer consumption, and it might affect some different ones, like maybe some different craft beers, maybe whatever that are higher in content of because they have maybe the brewed with fruit or whatever it is. So it might be interesting to see like how it eventually kind of flushes out, because I think anybody that's listening to this can really kind of understand that consumers are looking for transparency. They're asking questions about what's in their product now, be it supplements, be it food, beverage, beer, whatever it is. So it's just a natural progression for consumers to you have all this information and they want to have as much information possible because they can make whatever choice they can. There's so many substitutes out in the market. They don't necessarily need to buy Bud Light or anybody that's trying to hide behind some element of their label or not labeling anything.
All right. Well, man, this has been awesome. We talked about a lot of great stuff. I really appreciate you coming on tonight. This has been a show we've been needing to do for a while. So if anybody wants to seek out your services and also start watching your vlogs and reading your blogs, how do they get in touch with you? So
easiest probably is just Google my name. Honestly, I think everything pulls up pretty easily. So Joshua Schall, Schall. Consulting company is J Schall Consulting, but you just pull up my name. I think, I'm the first couple
pages. You are the first. I looked earlier.
Of that name. So you'll be able to very easily find what you're looking for. I have a bunch of, I think at this point, maybe 150 YouTube videos. There's 50, 75 articles. Most active I am is on LinkedIn. So if you guys are professional people and enjoy LinkedIn, that's where I post a lot of like really insightful stuff that regardless of any stakeholder within the industry, you're going to get something on a daily basis probably from me. Now, Facebook, I keep that more personal, but I still share stuff. Twitter, I'm kind of on all of them, but I think your big ones that you're going to want to do is going to be YouTube and LinkedIn. Those are going to be where you're going to get the most value as a business person. Now, if you want to know a little bit about me personally or whatever, I have all the other ones, Instagrams, Facebooks, things like that. You guys are more than happy to follow me. I'll accept connections and things like that. I try not to hide behind anything. I'm pretty much an open book.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here. Maybe in future times we can do this again. And potentially, I talked about earlier on Instagram, we're doing that mastermind event in Vegas before the Olympia. And I'm hoping to have Joshua there to talk about some more in-depth strategy. So looking forward to future collaboration. Thank you for coming on tonight, man. And for anybody that's watching that show, please share it and go and give Josh a follow as soon as possible, man. I appreciate it, brother.
I appreciate everybody's, taking a little time out of their day to listen to me jam about something I'm passionate about. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. If you have questions or anything, feel free to shoot it to me or Tyler or whatever. I mean, I'd be more than happy to add any extra color commentary on anything I said.
Perfect, man. All right, guys. You guys have a great one. We'll be back for another Wolf Wednesday next week, and we'll see you guys soon. Later, guys.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to help support me, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button on this video. If this is the first time you've been introduced to my videos, would love for you guys to be a part of my community by subscribing to my channel. I upload several videos just like this weekly. And if you guys want to connect further outside of this platform, I do include all of my social media links down below. I just want to thank you guys again for your time. Hopefully I gave you value in return, and we'll see you guys on the next video.